Hi there folks, welcome to Homebrew Wednesday. It's just going to be a short video this week. The mead that I've been working on that I showed you for the last couple of weeks is actually still doing fine. As you can see, it's colouring up nicely. It's still very cloudy at the moment, but it's going to be at least another week or two before that's ready. You can see the older pot, which I've now attached a thermometer strip to, so you can actually see how warm it is. Now I can kind of keep a vague idea of what the temperature's like up in that part of the house, just nicely and easily. It's a good idea. As you can see with the smaller batch, again it's colouring nicely. I'm just letting that mature. I'll probably do a video in the next couple of weeks where I try and bottle it. Still trying to figure out whether or not it's a good idea to put it into wine bottles or beer-sized bottles. I may do a combination of both. Also, depending on corking or crown capping them is better. If anybody has any particular opinions on this, I'll be very interested to hear them. Otherwise, I'll look it up online and make a decision. In the meantime, I thought I'd show you the fluid transfer kit that I finally got. Now, as you can see, it's a kind that you would use on vehicles for car engines or for transferring water out. Apparently not Blake fluid as it says on the front, but it's still a workable kit. It's a good piece of equipment, and I'll be able to use that in the smaller containers and transferring it from bottles or into a secondary racking. The other thing I'd like to talk about in this video is this stuff. Now, of course, you'll recognise I've got a glass of beer here. It's not homebrew. I wish I could brew this homebrew. This is one of my favourite beers. It's a Witchwood's Hobgoblin, which I've been drinking this stuff since I was 18 and used to work in a supermarket, and realised that it was only, I think at the time, some ridiculously low price for a bottle of this, so I would pick up a couple on a Saturday night, come home, watch whatever rubbish was on television, which is probably Hercules and Xena if I remember correctly, and have a couple of bottles of this at my dinner and watch television of an evening, and very much got a taste for it, because before that I was really a bit of a lager boy, which anyone who knows anything about Hobgoblin will find amusing, as it's one of the things stated on one of the posters for it is, "What's wrong, lager boy? Afraid you might taste something." Now, the problem I have with beers like this, and it's certainly not a problem with the quality or the taste of them, because I do love them, and there's a lot of breweries like this. It's not just Witchwood. I said there's plenty of fine beers out there. I'm quite fond of the odd craft ale. Everything from the kind of the microbrewery end of things to the sort of what I would class as hipster beers like Brewdog, straight up to things like Bombardier and Bishop's Finger and Old Peculiar. But the problem with beers like this, and one of the reasons why I think more people are actually getting into homebrewing these days, is because of the cost. And the cost has become bordering on prohibitively expensive for many, many people. I mean, without getting sidetracked into the problems people are having at the moment with the recession, with taxes going up, thankfully, the tax didn't go up on beer after everybody rallied together. Well done, camera, and all your friends for rallying together and keeping it going and preventing anything going on it. But that hasn't changed the fact that beer's costs are still exorbitantly expensive. To take, for example, as I said, my tipple of choice, the Hobgoblin. My local and my favourite bar, the Old House in Edinburgh, shout out, sells it at, I believe it's currently priced at something slightly over £3. It could be £3.20, £3.50, I'm not sure exactly how much it is. And the problem with that is, and that's not even the most expensive you'll find beers like that, or comparable beers in town. The problem is, if you're at the point where a pint of beer costs everything between £3.50 to £5, and sometimes upward of that, obviously specialist beers, very strong beers will actually cost you anything up to about £7 or £8. The main issue with that is, in your local supermarket, you can pick up a bottle of these beers for £1.50, £1.70. You can pick up a can, you can actually pick up a 4-pack can of Bombardier or Hobgoblin for £4. That's £1 a can for a 500 and, I think it's 550 milliliter can. Now, granted, you're not getting a full pint, but you're getting it for less than a third of the price. Now the problem with that is these prices are being artificially inflated, partly because people need to go and support their local pubs, and absolutely, go and support your local pubs. There's nothing worse than not having a local pub to go to. So by all means, I'm not advocating people stay at home and drink beer. But the problem is that because the disparity in the pricing has become so great that nobody can actually afford to go out and drink as much as they could do. And the people that can, to be honest, are probably spending far more money than they should. I mean, I'm lucky if I drink more than 2 or 3 pints a week. And that's largely because it costs so much, in as much of, as opposed to it being because I don't like going to the pub. Because God knows, I love going to the pub, and I love trying new beers. But it's certainly something to think about, and it's certainly one of the reasons I think a lot of people get into home brewing. Because home brewing prices, I mean, you're talking about spending between 20 and 40 pence on every pint. That's after the initial outlay of buying your beer kits, which is between 70 and £100, depending on what you buy, where, what beer kit. Usually they come with a beer kit, but depending on what one you buy, that's what it'll cost. But that's offset against the fact that every subsequent beer kit you buy, which would be anywhere between £10 to £15, maybe something a little bit more, but the average price seems to be floating around the £13–14 mark. These beer kits will give you a ridiculous amount of beer, and a ridiculous amount of beer at a very low cost. So from that point of view, it starts to beg the question of whether or not it's actually worth setting up a microbrewery. Now, licensing costs are something I'm going to look into and try and find out. As I said, I will say at this point, I haven't actually tried home brewing beer yet. I'm going to definitely give that a shot later in the year, as I've said, but it's certainly something worth thinking about. So, I said, with that, this is just a short video. I'll leave you at that. Cheers.